Welcome. In this explainer, we are going to break down the core principles of the Indian Constitution. You can think of it as the very DNA of the world's largest democracy. And what better place to start than with this really powerful quote from one of its chief architects, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He called the power to enforce your rights the heart and soul of the whole thing. Because, let's be real, what good are promises if there's no way to make sure they're kept? All right, so let's get right into that blueprint. The entire relationship between the Indian state and all of its citizens is basically built on three foundational pillars. Each one has a totally distinct and vital role to play. To make this super simple, let's use a metaphor. Think of your fundamental rights as a personal shield. Then you've got the directive principles. That's the state's guiding compass. And finally, the fundamental duties? Well, that's the social contract, the part we all agree to uphold. Okay, first up, your shield. These are the fundamental rights you'll find in Part 3 of the Constitution, and they're specifically designed to protect you from the power of the state. Now, here's a crucial word you've got to know: justiciable. What this really means is that these rights aren't just nice ideas on paper. Nope. If someone violates them, you can literally walk into a court and demand justice. That's your shield in action. Let's take Article 14, the right to equality, as an example. It shows that equality isn't just one simple thing. It's got two sides. On one hand, you have a negative idea, stopping the state from putting anyone above the law. But then there's the positive command. The state must apply its laws equally to everyone in similar situations. Two sides of the same coin. And this is what's so fascinating. These rights are alive. They actually evolve over time. Just look at the right to life in Article 21. Back in 1950, it was interpreted pretty narrowly. But over the decades, the Supreme Court expanded it, saying any procedure has to be fair and reasonable. And that evolution eventually led to the right to privacy being declared a fundamental right. Incredible, right? So that's your shield. Now let's turn to the state's moral compass, the directive principles of state policy. These are the big aspirational goals that create a vision for the entire nation. But here's the key difference. Unlike your shield, this compass is non-justiciable. You can't actually sue the government for not achieving one of these goals. A better way to think about it is as the government's constitutional to-do list. It's a set of instructions for building a fair and just society. But hold on, just because you can't sue over them, do not make the mistake of thinking they're unimportant. This compass has been the guiding star for some of India's biggest laws. The idea for village councils? It came from a directive. Major environmental protection laws? Yep, a directive. They are literally the blueprint for action. Okay, so we've got your shield and the state's compass. That brings us to the third pillar, the social contract. This is our side of the deal, our fundamental duties as citizens. And here's something you might not know. These weren't even in the original Constitution from 1950. They were added way later, in 1976, to create a sense of balance. A reminder that with great rights, well, you know the rest. You can really see these duties as a call to action. They ask every single citizen to pitch in, to respect the Constitution, to promote harmony with each other, protect our environment, and even develop a scientific temper. It's all about building the nation together. So you've got the citizen's shield of rights and the state's compass of policy. What happens when they seem to point in completely different directions? This, my friends, is where we see the great constitutional balancing act. You know, in the early years, the courts had a simple answer. Rights always win. Your shield was just considered superior to the state's compass, period. But that way of thinking started to shift. By 1980, in a huge case called Minerva Mills, the Supreme Court said, wait a minute. They declared that the Constitution stands on a bedrock of balance between the two. This quote says it all. The court basically established that the harmony between individual rights and the goals for society isn't just a nice idea. It's a fundamental, unchangeable feature of the Constitution. You simply cannot sacrifice one for the other. So at the end of the day, it's this constant dialogue, this dynamic tension between your shield, the state's compass, and our shared social contract that really defines and continues to shape the soul of Indian democracy. And of course, it keeps posing new challenges for every single generation.